Okay, we are live for another episode of DCA. We were all just talking before the show how much we've been enjoying these shows recently. I think mainly because we've actually been on a bit of a hot streak. I think we've called the market pretty well, the major runners. It's been a good couple of months for the show. I think last week we did say we would touch 100K. We got to 99.8. It felt like, and then we got rugged. We are back down to 95K-ish, looks like today. But the vibes are still high, at least here in the studio. How are you doing, James? How's this week been for you?
Good. I was just saying as well to you guys, we had the most incredible 3 weeks ever that I've seen in the bull market in crypto and even other assets, all driven by the November 4th to 5th transition. It's been monstrous. Bitcoin going up 50%, which is 33,500 from bottom to top in exactly 3 weeks. The weekly candles are insane. Like it's spectacular, and everything else is running too. Even garbage is running. So it's and then, yeah, and then the stuff happening behind the scenes is something to behold. Like today, a monstrous 55,000 Bitcoin buy. Double oversubscribed from MicroStrategy. And, we had Marathon last week. We had Semler buying again today. I mean, these treasuries, there's a narrative now for Bitcoins. Treasuries and ETFs stacking hard.
Yeah, it does feel like each week we get more and more headlines. Marty, I'll go to you with the chart in a minute, CTO. But Marty, how have you been doing?
Oh, I'm good. Really happy about this flush today. I mean, it's only 3% of Bitcoin, but a lot of these alts got really rinsed out, which is terrific. All the leverage removed. I hope everyone got in at the bottom. Yeah, we got up to 99999.99. That's what we didn't quite touch 100,000.
We couldn't quite.
But
it did feel like
go ahead.
It did feel like leverage wipeout just then, didn't it? What did you see where Solana went?
Leverage wipeout. Absolutely beautiful. I hope everyone had dry powder and got into their positions. That was a juicy one. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think looking at me, Solana went down to the 230s and a bunch of bolts had a bit of a move. So CTO, let's have a look at the chart. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Stop dancing around stuff. How have you also been for the last week?
Oh yeah, what an amazing week, guys. What an amazing week. And let's look at this. So if you're looking at the picture here, the line is drawn at 100,000. And I felt that a lot of people were angry this week. And I think it's because perhaps they made a mistake. They wanted to sell some at 100,000. But guys, the big players, if someone wants to sell at 100,000, they're not going to put their sell orders at 100,000. They're going to put it a little bit below. So if taking an example, so this week went up to 99,860. So if I would have my sell order at 99,860, it gets fully executed. But if you have your sell order at 99,861, nothing of your sell order gets executed. So this becomes a game to try to figure out how much lower than the even number to put the sell order if someone is looking to sell, and then try to put it a little below everyone else so that it gets executed. So this is exactly how I expected it to look. I talked about this 100K slightly front run. That's exactly what we got. And yeah, this is a touch on 100K. This is exactly how we would expect it to look. And actually some exchanges like CME hit 100,000. I think 100,000, 160 or something like that. I can bring it up later. So this is exactly what we could expect. Then this is a resistance level. The even number is a resistance. Some retracement can be expected. That's exactly what we're seeing here. The only question that I have is how long it will retrace here. Where will it turn? And I don't know that, unfortunately. I'm very interested in hearing different perspectives of that. We did have some more volume down here at 92. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of people on the sidelines that are stressed now, that want to get in as soon as possible. And perhaps we don't back up much more than this. But that is what I'm interested in. I do have some fresh money from selling some other stuff that I'm interested in putting in. And yeah, that's what's on my mind now. How far this will back up.
Yeah, that's a bad signal. If anybody needs liquidity, CTO has some fresh money.
Can I ask questions on the technicals here? Because I think for the last 10 months, we've been in a range, and it's been much easier to read technicals, right? Like you can see where the resistance levels are, you can see where the support levels are. We're now breaking out to a new all-time high. Are there any things that you can look at from a technical perspective for where you would see resistance on a chart like that? So like when a chart is going at all-time high to all-time high, where is there a way to sometimes see where those points of resistance are going to be?
I mean, there are different models and fractals and so on and so forth, but I've studied that topic a lot. And usually it's not a successful approach because a lot of times technology goes much higher than even the biggest optimist could ever dream of in their wildest dream. So having like a target-based approach is usually not the right one because it overshoots. So, you sell at 50% gain or 100% gain, but it goes 1000x or, it goes 100 times instead. So I don't know, and I don't care really. I'm not going to have a target-based approach on this. I will instead try to study the behavior. If we break up here, if we break above 100,000, consolidate above, start moving up, I will look for some signs of a top pattern because sometimes that is possible to identify. It gets like a classical charting top pattern. We get a broken parabola, the trend turns down or something like that. That's what I will act upon. Right now, we don't have it. We just have a retracement from a natural resistance level, and that in itself isn't a top pattern.
And where's the key resistance points you would say on this chart?
I mean, the resistance point is the 100,000. So now we will back up. And where will we turn? I don't know. I mean, could be here if looking at the volume. 92,000, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of stressed people on the sidelines, so we might not go back so far.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, Mando, the sell wall was only 2,300 Bitcoin large at 100K. Like it's like the meme of the little cracker or something holding the door locked. So this is I think more institutional manipulation than actual sell wall. The question is, where is the buy going to come from? And again, we saw the monster buys from Semler and MicroStrategy, absolutely huge. The ETFs are stacking like last week alone. If you include the MicroStrategy buy, the ETF buys, you're talking 83,000 Bitcoin, just those players alone. And that's a lot of Bitcoin. And I think about 3 billion has been sold by long-term holders. So there is some profit taking for lifestyle chips, but it's nothing like the money that's probably going to come in right now. Up to year end, people need to, at least the TradFi normies and Michael Saylor and others want to buy as much as they can before 100,000. Once it eclipses 100,000, it's off to the races.
Yeah, that was the questions I posed before we began, which is 100K a buy the news or sell the news event? Now, we didn't hit 100K, but it looked like short term it was a bit of a sell the news event. But my guess was that as soon as you hit 100K, Bitcoin gets tons of mainstream coverage. And a bunch of people say, oh, this isn't going to die, is it? This is going to keep going because it's 100K. It's not like it's at 10K or oh, yeah, we've forgotten about Bitcoin. When something gets to 100K and is the 5th largest asset in the world, it kind of feels like do you know what I mean? There's a logic here that the higher it goes, like the more obvious it makes it, like the more
price is the advertisement, the marketing for the whole thing, and that 100K is a psychological milestone as well that everybody said would never happen, and here we are.
Yeah, like if you think it's at 100K because fiat is dying, then there's a very logical argument that it should be at $1 million because fiat is dying. Like it can really go very, very far if that narrative catches on. What do you think about all this, Marty?
I mean, I've had the same thesis for quite a while, months, a year. Based on the cup and handle, I think the next resistance is 125,000. I think it goes through 100, hovers around 104, tests 100 from the top, runs to 125. And that's, I think, the first institutional exit, maybe, which might drop us back to, these levels where we are now. And then I think we'll run up, test 100,000 again, pass it, and then that'll be the end. We'll move over 100 into, up to 200 on the way to 200. So I would think that 125 is the next level to really be concerned about. That's because you've got the cup and handle calling 125. You've got, at least I've done a post about at least 3 or 4 major TA patterns and things pointing at around 123 to 125 as the top of this. And even if you align it to gold and gold's rally to where we got to, it would be a similar number. But I think right now we're seeing a completely changed market, guys. This is completely different. Like James just said, I don't see much selling at all. Even today, very little selling. It's all market makers and institutions selling. That was just to destroy leverage. There's only buying. I think psychological 100,000 isn't what it used to be. I think with the Trump victory and we've got 300 pro-crypto members of Congress now. Congress is basically pro-crypto. So this is very different.
Can I add one anecdote?
I call it Black Wall Street versus Binance. We're going through Wall Street versus Binance, that era of crypto, where Binance needs to flush the market because they sell derivatives, they sell longs, and Wall Street is just buying everything they sell into. So they're selling into the Wall Street. We saw today with MicroStrategy, they're selling into those buy walls. And, I've always called it. I've always said there will be a war between Binance and Wall Street, which is Jane Street, the market maker. So it's going to be like jump trading, Binance and Jane Street. And I think we're watching it happen in real time. Go ahead, Anders.
Yeah, thank you. So I spoke to 2 professional traders this weekend. It's an anecdote. So, but sometimes anecdotes are valuable. They had sold at 99,000 something, I think 99,400, and they were hoping to buy back. They sold in order to buy back slightly lower, and they were speculating perhaps they could buy back at 86 if they're lucky, but they said if price crosses 100K, they'll just bite the bullet and buy back then. So that was their strategy, and perhaps there's quite a few of those, so that's why it's retracing a little bit here. They're hoping to buy back a little below a resistance rejection, and then hope for the next leg up above 100K. And if that doesn't happen,
the professional traders, like myself and my community and James, we're all in communication. We do the same thing. We wait for the flushes, the Binance flushes, to accumulate and to long. So we've turned the corner. We've become like smart money, and that's what they're doing. Is they now understand that the derivative market really has so much power and influence over crypto prices because they sell so many longs. They sell $160 billion a day of longs, and I think 120 billion of shorts. It's very much weighted long.
It's amazing, guys. We're sitting here talking about whether we are slightly below or slightly above $100,000 for one Bitcoin. For those of you who have been around here, it's blowing my mind that we're even having that conversation. I think it is fantastic. We made it, guys.
Yeah, I think very true. Perspective is often needed here. I think we sometimes get caught up in the short-term price action, but this has been a huge move. As James says, 50% move in Bitcoin over the space of just a few weeks. So those don't happen too often. So I think we also got to have a little bit of a victory lap here, and appreciate that sometimes it does just take a little bit of a dip, so we can keep on going. There was some specific crypto positive news. In fact, a bunch of positive crypto news. Trump obviously picked Bessent for the Treasury Secretary, who feels like he's going to be a very pro-crypto candidate. This is alongside a number of other pro-crypto people who have been appointed to his administration, it looks like. And you also had Gary Gensler announcing his departure in January. There was some commentary around that time that it looks like this could be the end of a lot of the different court cases, or they could get settled. I think one of the incoming potential commissioners actually tweeted out yesterday something like, "Let's make crypto great again," which seems kind of wild to see that turn from the SEC. But it really does feel like we're seeing a sea change here in US policy towards crypto. Even the Commerce Secretary obviously used to be at Cantor, and it came out that Cantor now has a There's a 5% take in Tether, which is just kind of like wild. Some of these links, it looks like, between crypto and the administration that's going to come in. So what did you make of all of these, James? It feels as though we could be seeing the rearview mirror of the SEC being a big deal for crypto.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And we saw that the minute he resigned, like there was a lot of smoke that Gary Gensler was going to resign. The minute he did, actually, even before he did, shout out to Robinhood, they just went ahead and listed the tokens again. I was like,
the day after they listed Solana again.
yeah, it was great. But it is huge. You mentioned, Marty mentioned the 300 pro crypto folks in Congress now, much younger generation as well. We have, again, treasuries, pensions, institutions, sovereigns. This is really getting attention. We have big parts of the world that are in major recession, like the situation in Germany. The macro data I look at from Germany every day is shocking. The ECB is in trouble, and the Europeans now know they need a savior. So that everybody's going to be FOMOing into Bitcoin. But the other thing that's really interesting as well is not only do you have all the good news, like the Tether partnership with Cantor Fitzgerald. Tether is the lifeblood of crypto. They have issued 15 billion in the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But partnering with Cantor Fitzgerald and this guy Lutnick, who's going to be the head of commerce, basically almost gives the rubber stamp of approval to Tether being USA approved. And that will change the game. People have to keep a very close eye on that. And I tweeted yesterday the Cantor Fitzgerald as a joke. But they have a huge impact, and they are also getting into Bitcoin lending. All the pieces are falling into place. And then you have the analysts and the big funds. You've got Bernstein warning people, get Bitcoin now, like a gun to their customers' heads, buy Bitcoin. You have Van Eck saying 180K easy next year for Bitcoin. And all the other stuff, everything is dropping into place.
James, it's even, we must mention for the audience some other things. Remember, the SEC has 5 commissioners. The anti-crypto commissioners were the chair, Gary Gensler, and then Jamie Lizard.
Yeah,
and he's also out. He announced his intention to leave 3 days before Gensler, January 17th.
If you are part of the...
Even the bigger news, James, is Teresa Gulen is now the number 1 candidate to replace Gary Gensler. She is like absolute pro crypto.
She's a crypto lawyer. Yeah.
No, so they're literally replacing everyone with pro crypto.
It's all massive. And if you were part of the anti-crypto army, you are a persona non grata today. Very simple.
Yeah.
Not welcome.
There's a big difference between the SEC being neutral towards crypto and the SEC being pro crypto, which I think we've actually gone way better than I think even people expected, which is more just, stay of our business. We're libertarianism. You do your thing, we're going to do our own thing. But to actually have a US government seems to be actively very pro crypto, it's going to be very interesting. I think you can get very, very bullish on a number of different scenarios getting pushed through. I'm not saying the SEC should turn a blind eye to, clearly there's been some huge rugs in crypto over the last few years, like FTX being probably the most well-known one. But maybe they will just let us, do our own thing for a little bit, and that would be super positive. Hopefully, we do get some regulation around at least around tokenization, which allows more TradFi people to come in. But particularly on the enforcement side, it does feel like we're in a much stronger case for a while here, and it looks like that globally as well. I don't know if you saw today, but the biggest retail bank in Hong Kong is now launching crypto trading for retail. Huge moves, looks like, all over the world. And I think I was speaking to someone about this over the weekend, and we were talking about what happens if there is some indication that the Fed starts to buy crypto. And he said the same thing that you said, James. It's just game theory at this stage. Like, as soon as one person does it, they all have to. If US does it, then everyone has to. But even if some other big nations start doing it, then it becomes really a game. It really becomes a game theory equation.
Yeah, it's a 900 trillion.
Another big announcement, Nando, was UK announced that they will have crypto and, more importantly, stablecoin regulation is in early 2025. So they've jumped ahead now, accelerated their timescale. They're trying to jump ahead of the US. This will just push the US to regulate stablecoins, which I've always said, regulated stablecoins in the US, game changer for crypto.
Well, London, yeah, as London knows, London was the financial center of the planet, and they want to regain that crown. So they know the only chance they have is to embrace crypto. And there's a very strong crypto lobby in the UK in Parliament.
Yeah, I feel that there are two things that could happen from this point. One is this: if stable coins get clearly and easily regulated, payment is a giant use case. And today, most people, you can still not pay with crypto. And if that gets sorted out once and for all, clearly regulated, here's how it works, you can pay with stablecoin, that's enormous for the adoption and usage of crypto. The other thing that has been so damaging for the whole industry over the past couple of years is this unclarity that Gary Gensler really represented. Remember that interview where the senator asked him, like, how about Ethereum, the second biggest cryptocurrency? Is it a security or not? And he kind of won't answer. And then so much unclarity for all the other projects. If you cannot even answer number 2, what about number 50? Or what about the new project that someone is trying to create? No one knew what you were allowed to do. And that put a wet blanket on everything. The only thing that kind of survived or thrived was really meme coins, because they explicitly don't do anything. But anything with a utility had this looming threat that they could get sued anytime. And even the ones who try to comply, they go there and says, please tell us what to do. Tell us what forms to fill out, what registrations to do. And they didn't get the answer. There was complete unclarity. So if that can be delivered now, that here are the things that you're allowed to do, you have to complete these steps, here's the regulation you need to follow, those things you cannot do, those are illegal. If that can be sorted out, imagine what this industry can produce now in the next season. That is really what I see is ahead. And like you said, Mando, I never thought we would get like a crypto positive SEC. I felt that the only thing the industry needs is something that isn't hostile, trying to shut down all the projects. That's all the industry needs. Now we might get more than that. We might get a positive and helpful SEC, and it's amazing. I've never been so positive to this whole industry as this moment.
Yeah, if stablecoins get regulated around the world, you're dead right. The top use case is payments, which will disrupt traditional finance, and then we go straight to a $10 trillion crypto market cap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we talk about, for the audience, when we talk about stablecoin regulation, what we're talking about is not only regulation, but legal tender definition. So you will be able to pay legally with stablecoin, which means businesses can accept stablecoin, which means they don't need Visa anymore. It is a massive seismic shift in TradFi. Stablecoin, it ain't no joke. It's in the quadrillions in volume. So yeah, I think that's the big next tipping point after the Trump victory will be stablecoin regulation.
So maybe let's switch gears slightly and look at some of the L1s this week. I have officially found a signal, guys. It does feel as though ETH rallies are continuing to be met with a whole market sells off afterwards. ETH did rally against Bitcoin this week. Bitcoin dominance back down to 58.5. And each time it starts to outperform, the market takes a little bit of a dump. It feels like across the board. It's been doing that for the last 6 months, but it does feel as though whenever you see ETH BTC breaking out to the upside, we're going to see some red. How does that chart look at the moment?
It looks like this. So you don't need to know any technical analysis to see, what is going on here. It's a straight line down still. And despite the pump today, that hasn't really changed anything. Like every time this chart is doing something, it's turning a previous support into resistance. And here was the support previously. I tried one time here to break up, immediately got punched down again. And this is not a sign of a turnaround here at this point. We it could be, you never know when the bottom happens, but we cannot look at this chart and say that there's a bottom pattern or something like that. No, we cannot say that.
How does the Bitcoin dominance chart look? Maybe that's a slightly different question. I'd be interested to see if you have it. Peak just done a 62%, right? Now it's at 58.60 today. It's quite a big dip. Yeah, because that's gone to a lower low there, it looks like, at least from the very, very recent.
It has, but it also kind of looks like this. It's hard to say that this has conclusively turned around. It could. I mean, it's backed up quite a bit from, what was it, almost 62, 61.5. Now it's 58. But if you look at it on a little bit perspective like this, we cannot say that this has turned yet. That would be just a guess. I mean,
take a look at
ETH
BTC, Anders. Look at ETH BTC. Pull that up. That's definitely bounced.
We just saw that.
That was the one we had here. So,
Yeah.
we cannot say that this has turned. It looks garbage still.
But it feels as though dominance actually brings into things like Solana, which have had a better run, and some of the other altcoins are now starting to get to decent enough market cap that they can actually affect dominance. So that's why I
think the problem with this metric, just to add that, is that Ethereum is such a big part of it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we have to start looking at this without Ethereum or something like that.
Yeah.
Also, it's part of the cycle. The traditional cycle is your Bitcoin runs up, maximum dominance, then it pulls back, then, Ethereum has its move. So I think there is a lot of that going on. I think people are anticipating Ethereum's move. But like Nando just said, I think Ethereum has competition, genuine competition this time around. So you'll see more of a distribution into other layer ones. So it's going to be very different. So we'll see how it plays out for the rest of the day. I think that this week is paramount to understanding that. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
So it did feel as though ETH had the best performance of the week. And then there were like a number of coins, I wouldn't say dead coins, but coins which haven't really seen any life. Ripple was probably the biggest winner of the week. And that was mainly related to what was happening with Gary Gensler. Obviously, it took another pop higher on the back of that, but kind of a huge move in Ripple ever since the election. Probably one of the best returns, at least since the election. There looks like just over 2x, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of the Trump US crypto statement as well, because Cardano and Ripple are seen as, and Chainlink are seen as US based crypto, even though we all know it makes no sense and it'll be refined. But I think those two pumped on USA crypto and Gary Gensler being booted. Absolutely.
And the other big story I saw this week, let's say in terms of majors here, James, was MicroStrategy. So about middle of last week, we spoke about it, at length on the show last week. It's trading at a multiple of book, and then Citron Research, which is kind of a ghastly firm in the investment sphere, were shorting various different things in crypto during the last bear, came in and put out a short thesis on MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy dipped, but then seemingly has gone right back up. And in some ways, I kind of love it when people come into short that stock, because you just know it can keep on going higher. What was your view on it, James?
Yeah, it's wrecked a lot of people, and it's caused a lot of bitterness, especially with the Bitcoin maxis. They just can't wrap their heads around it. But I've made hundreds of videos on MicroStrategy and the infinite money glitch for years and years. In fact, 4 years ago is my first one, and that's when I started the channel. But they just bought over 55,000 Bitcoin, like literally over the weekend or last week at an average price of 97K. They now hold 386,700, worth nearly 40 billion. Their NAV to premium was about 2.26 this morning, and it went down even lower per my models. But the Citron strategy, it depends. They were very careful in not publishing too much aggressiveness going short. They say they long Bitcoin. They entered a little short on MicroStrategy, not a huge one, because you saw what happened to that other company that made a $3 billion short. I can't remember what they're called, but they got their faces ripped off. And the simple thing is, it's an on-ramp for many. It's becoming the new bond market. You've got Allianz, one of the most conservative insurance carriers on the face of the planet, throw $1 billion at this MicroStrategy bond, which has zero downside, lots of Bitcoin upside. It's perfect for conservative TradFi. Even insurance companies, the most conservative of all. And, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's breaking everything. And if you look at the size of the $100 trillion plus bond market, nobody's buying institutional bonds. He owns the market. And that's probably the biggest story. I made a video on it last week as well. The new bond market or something. That is the big story. So again, it's real simple. They issue debt at 0%. They get free money, which is going down. Bitcoin's going up. They're stacking a crazy large position of Bitcoin, nearly 400,000 now. And if you imagine there'll never be more than 14 million Bitcoin, because I believe 5 million are lost or dormant forever, that's a huge percentage. And I know I can hear the eyes notice, oh, it's not good for one player to have so much. Well, look at BlackRock. They have even more. And that's just the way of the world. And if it wasn't for the Sailors of the world and the BlackRocks of the world and the ETFs, Bitcoin price would probably be around 42,000. So thank you, lucky stars, that we have these players.
Just for the audience, to back up James, our calculations we did before the show, BlackRock has 418 or 419,000. That's around 2.7% of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy now has 386,700 people. That's 2.49%. They're just behind BlackRock.
Yeah,
literally one purchase away from catching BlackRock. Unbelievable.
And Manda, just to finish the point, put a little point on top of it. All you have to do is buy MicroStrategy and then wait somewhere between 4 weeks and 12 weeks, and you will make money because of what they're doing. That's it. Don't overthink it. It's not hard. Now, if we get into a bear market, MicroStrategy will get crushed. Just like when we were buying back in the bear, it was selling at a discount to their Bitcoin bag. Now it's selling at a premium because Bitcoin price is going up and will continue to go up into 2025.
Yeah, I think there was probably, and there was some, I remember the depths of the bear market, right? People were talking about hunting his liquidation, and then he was like, my liquidation's at like $1,000, and everyone kind of gave up on that. But I think that's probably also why it was trading below book, right? There was some fear that, it could all unravel. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's interesting. I used to trade, obviously, the institutional bond market for many years. There's a weird thing being a bond market trader, and I used to trade corporate debt, although you can talk about this just as much for sovereign debt as well, in that the whole market knows that it's just being bailed out the whole time. I used to trade European high yield distress companies, and there's a term there which is just amend and pretend, or extend and pretend.
Yep.
Which is just everyone knows that the growth isn't high enough. Everyone knows the debt to GDP or the debt ratios of these companies are too high. But we just need to keep on extending the debt, hoping that QE bails us out, because the underlying, productive nature of the economy just isn't enough to deal with the amount of debt that we have. It's interesting that your point, I don't think the institutional bond market is dead, but there is this underlying fallacy to it all, is that the only real bid at the end of the day will be the ECB or the Fed that will have to bail you out by printing money. So to actually have a company which has its whole treasury in something like Bitcoin and isn't as reliant on the Fed in any way to bail it out, I think it's kind of an interesting point that it could be taken over the bond market.
Yep, definitely. And you mentioned the key term there, extend and pretend, because that's all MicroStrategy has to do. They can do this infinitely up until $100 trillion. They replace the whole market. All they have to do is keep pushing their debt out, keep borrowing fiat at zero, keep buying Bitcoin, sucking up the supply, price goes up. And the other point as well is very important. People talk about all these other companies coming in and buying treasuries. There will only be one MicroStrategy where they are pure play. The entire company is a Bitcoin bag. Forget the rest of software. It's nothing anymore. But the other companies, like even if Microsoft jumped in tomorrow and spent $30 billion in Bitcoin, it would be a spit in the bucket compared to their $3.5 trillion market cap. So that's the other thing. There's only one game that can do this at scale. That's MicroStrategy. That's what other people also forget to realize.
Yeah, but it's true. Like it needs time to be able to build it up, build the trust. Like even if you've seen companies like MetaPlanet try and do it, even now, like they are so far behind the size of MicroStrategy that it's really just them that can do it. In terms of narratives, which I think I've seen pick up even more this week, was the AI agent stuff, which we started mentioning probably about 6 weeks ago on the show. It is starting to really, really pick up. So a lot of these big AI has now replaced meme coins as the number one for crypto market share, mind share in crypto, which has been the case for the last few weeks. But it's crazy to see, given how much of a massive cycle this has been for meme coins, that we're now starting to see this shift towards AI. The big ones this week have been agents where you like own the coin attached to the agent itself. We've mentioned Goat a few times in this. Zerebro was the one that became has gone up to about 400 million. It's I would say it's a AI agent for Zoomers. It made a rap album this week, which got featured. It's got its own, I think, TikTok and Instagram. You can talk to it on Telegram. You can talk to it on X. And a lot of the agents are like this. They're kind of like these multifaceted. They can do swaps, like financial stuff alongside cultural things as well. And people have been diving into that space. Kind of, I don't know if you necessarily need the coin, but people are definitely speculating on it, like you would speculate on owning the best LLM, for example. It's been a very interesting trend that I've seen, but that has been the number one biggest trend in crypto for sure over the last week. And some of these coins are going towards hundreds of millions, even billion-dollar market caps. Binance Research put out a piece just yesterday, actually talking about the space. So I think we'll also start to see a number of like major listings. One thing I think we have, I don't know if you guys have seen any of these. I know AI as a whole sector has been gone through its ups and downs, but this AI agent thing, it feels like retail is here now, and this is what they are choosing to speculate on alongside meme coins.
Yeah, I played with Zerebro yesterday just to test it out. The UI takes a lot to be desired, but it's interesting, the scope of what it can do. It's pretty incredible. Like it's the mashup between a true AI agent and an NFT creator and an art creator and a music creator and everything else. It's quite special.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of NFTs last cycle. This one, like it's this own thing where you don't actually own the tech. You kind of just own the IP around that agent, but it's become they've really, retail have come in and they think that this is the funnest thing to invest in, and because they can do all this new stuff, it's also weirdly, I think, put crypto back on like the bleeding edge bit of AI tech. And the reason is that a lot of these LLMs are being jailbroken, right? Like they're being broken down or they're being trained on different data, like that Google or OpenAI or Microsoft is not doing. So you have a bunch of very young or very talented AI researchers suddenly coming into crypto and being like, this is a playground with which to do a ton of different cool experiments with these LLMs, which we aren't able to do. And you can create all these crazy agents off the back of it that I think we're about to see a big inflow of very, very smart people coming into crypto, realizing they can make some money doing it as well. So that's been a good underlying trend. One thing that I have seen, even during retail coming in, is that Coinbase, although I've been bullish on that stock, hasn't really picked up on it. There was a piece by CoinDesk over the weekend, basically pointing to the fact that they've, even after Gary Gensler being seemingly out the door and the US being very more pro crypto, they are not listing that many tokens. And what you've seen is a big rise in these like direct consumer applications. The biggest one being the wallets, things like Phantom. And then the second one would be things like, well, I guess it's mainly the wallets, but then you have Moonshot, which has been probably the most popular app for like Zoomers, I would say, again, in crypto. It's like a Robinhood equivalent for meme coins. But what do you think here? Do you think all these exchanges should just start listing all these tokens? It still surprised me how slow some of them have been to catch up. And it feels as though a lot of these sort of decentralized plays or new apps are now coming in to win market share.
Well, for years, I've always said that the DEXs will kill the centralized exchanges, and that's happening fast right now. And this is not to be understated too. Any thoughts on that, you guys? Phantom?
It's normally it's normally a bit of a bearish sign, but I think that's just in finance maybe, or utilities. It's not number one everywhere.
They're free utility apps.
Yeah.
Browsers.
Also, you saw Solana's monthly DEX volume surpassed 100 billion this month.
Yep.
That's going to get a lot of eyes too. 100 billion a month.
But I think just a bit of a fine line on this. Browsers, the access, the gateway to the internet, are now less popular than a phantom Solana wallet gateway to crypto. This is the path to 1 billion users. Anders?
Yeah, so the way that I see this, I always felt like Coinbase is on one side. They were never been the fastest. They've never been the cheapest. They've been kind of stable and trusted American choice for big institutions. And then on the other side has been the decentralized wallets. Before it was MetaMask, now it's Phantom and so on. And then somewhere in between have been like the other exchanges that have been slightly faster, slightly cheaper, in the leader in the previous cycle than Binance. Now maybe it's Bybit and Binance, and a bunch of others that are somewhere in between. They are cheaper than Coinbase, faster to list new coins, but not as fast and cheap as the fully decentralized solutions, but provide more ease of use, more usability. There is customer support. You do something wrong, there is someone to talk to who can help you reset your password. But I feel that the gap this cycle from the decentralized solution to these kind of exchanges in the middle have narrowed. Like Phantom Wallet is dramatically easier to use today than MetaMask was in the last cycle, for example. So the gap has kind of closed, and I'm not sure that like the advantage that Coinbase has towards the retail end user is as clear as it was previously, because there are more other solutions now. I think for the institutions, they want to have like a custody solution. They've clearly grabbed a huge part of that market share, but it's not as clear for the average retail user why they absolutely need a Coinbase account, for example. I think that's what has changed. That's what we see here. And they will never be as fast to list new coins as some of the newer players that have more of that as a business model, I think.
But I think that's basically what I'm trying to say. I think that's a worry, because at this stage, the number of coins that are being created has obviously gone parabolic, right? We're getting 15 to 20,000 coins a day at the moment. Pump Fund had its biggest ever day yesterday. I think it made $15 million in a day. So you have an insane amount of new coins happening. And yet the centralized exchanges are actually listing at a slower pace than they ever have been. It's so you have a bunch of users that are coming on wanting to see a coin, and they're just not catching up. And I think that's something that's going to have to quite quickly change if these exchanges are going to remain retail's number one, because the reason why they're downloading Phantom is because the only way for them to buy these coins is on Phantom, or the only way for them to buy these coins is on Moonshot, which has been one of the other more younger Robinhood style equivalents for meme coins. So it does worry me a little bit about that Coinbase long. I was like, you guys have got to be quicker, and they were called out by Coindesk that they kind of have to as well this week. But we did see
Phantom is special, though. Phantom is special because it can have Ethereum and native Bitcoin and Solana all in one place. It's the ultimate wallet. And first of all, anybody, from my experience in my community, anybody that comes into crypto through Coinbase or any centralized exchange like Binance and gets into DeFi, gets their own self-custody, starts to trade on DEXs, they never go back. It's just too cool. It's just too nice. Self-agency. So I think it's just a natural adoption curve. They come through the centralized exchanges into DeFi and they never go back. They actually become haters of centralized exchanges. Very interesting.
Yeah, I do. The Phantom is an incredible wallet. Like you said, multi-chain, very easy to use, good UI,
Also,
UX.
there's a lot of issues with Coinbase, guys. I don't know if you know, but like the support side of Coinbase, it's a constant flow of issues. Going down, people can't get their money, support is bad. Coinbase as an exchange, I think its profile is going down. I think you're right, Mando. It's not a fun experience. So,
big US institution that did come in was Charles Schwab. I don't know if you saw this, James, but probably one of the biggest US brokerage firms said they are now going to be offering crypto to their users. This kind of coincides with a number of the other big ETF providers like Vanguard looking like they might capitulate back into crypto too. Obviously, they got rid of their CEO. They're going to get somebody new. Charles Schwab was one of the big holdouts as well. But this, again, like, I don't even know how many, it's in the millions, tens of millions of customers Charles Schwab has. So that sort of instant onboarding, again, it just shows that we're going to see these sort of headlines every single week.
Yeah, and Schwab, like, for perspective, Fidelity is 4 trillion, Schwab is 8 trillion, BlackRock is 11.5 trillion. So they're the three big gorillas in the space. And Schwab is also very conservative. So they kind of tiptoe into stuff, but now they're going whole hog into crypto because they know they're missing out.
This is all because they changed CEO to the Rick Wurster, right? Rick Wurster came in, pro crypto once again. Pro crypto CEO comes in, the whole mission of the company changes. And this is, I think, what you're going to see. Yep.
The new CEO had a great line, which is, "I will feel silly for not buying crypto as it hits 100K." Which is kind of exactly what we said before. Like, it's going to be a buy the news event. Like, when crypto hits 100K, a bunch of people, and I know this from working in a bank, are going to be like, crap, I should have bought it. I should have bought it. I can't ignore this now. And I think, like you said early on in the show, Anders, like, we may go down to 92K, but I already feel like that bid's there. People are realizing this isn't going now. You know, now that you're not only having a neutral SEC, you're having a pro-crypto SEC, a pro-crypto administration. Donald Trump just did a DeFi ICO 3 weeks ago. Like, we couldn't be more bullish on crypto being accepted. This isn't going away. They're not going to kill crypto anymore. And if they're not going to kill it, and you think fiat value is eroding, like I said, Bitcoin at 100K makes just as much sense as Bitcoin at $1 million. Or even higher. You know, if you really do think we're heading that way, then I think it's a FOMO trade increasingly.
And it's also, sorry.
I think all these trading platforms, like from Robinhood to Charles Schwab and everyone in between, they have to offer crypto. You don't have a market if you don't offer that today, because all the big investors want to have some exposure. They want to trade it. So if you don't have it, you lose the whole customer. They go somewhere else to someone who has it. So I think all of these are going to have it now if they don't have it already. That's clear at this point. Sorry, James.
No, I was just going to say the psychology of the step change as well for TradFi. You know, you go from 1,000 to 10,000. Then 10,000 to 100,000. So they've seen the evolution. And as Amanda says, you know, in time, it'll be $1 million. Like, if you ask Kathy Wood, she says 2029, you know, $1.3 million. Fidelity, $1 billion by 2038. As Michael Saylor, 13 million by 2042. These are all the crazy predictions. Again, fiat's going to zero. If you just look at the escalation of debt, the US now has over 36 trillion in debt. 90 days ago, it had 35 trillion in debt. And when you visualize $100 bills stacked, $1 trillion worth of them, it melts your head. It's very scary.
Mm. Also, I mean, total crypto market cap is now, the only ahead of it is Apple, Nvidia, and gold. So if you're not in, you're out at this point. What happens when it passes Apple at 3.4 trillion, guys? That's very close. That's Bitcoin hitting 100,000. That could be any second. Now crypto is bigger than Apple.
Yeah.
Then Nvidia, the wonder child, 3.59 trillion. That's not far away. Then it's just behind gold. And then, you know, it's just it's a network effect, and we're watching in real time. You're either in or you're out. So
just to touch upon maybe tactics until year end here. Like, what are you guys thinking? What are your rough price predictions here for year end? I know 125K was the you just said, Marty, at the start of the show, but do you think that's going to be more left translation? Do you think we're going to get that very, very soon? Or do you think that's going to be more like a Q1 next year?
I mean, there's a couple of extremely bullish things that could happen between now and the end of the year. Obviously, if the Senate votes on either the Bitcoin Reserve Act, even if it fails, just the vote alone, if the FIT 21 comes up, if obviously we don't talk about it. Remember, Biden revoked the SAB accounting rule. That might go the other way as well. Any of these regulatory votes that go the other way or just enter the House or Congress, I think will propel Bitcoin way over 100,000 this year, in my opinion. So I think we're at a regulatory crossroads. We've seen Trump made some unbelievable announcements, but nothing's set in stone. The minute anything actually changes above narrative in the US regulatory structure, I think that propels us over 100 to the 125 line.
Yeah. I saw that the FTX repayments are going to be starting in Q1 as well. So, and like you said, people will front run that. So I think that could be a late Q4, very early Q1 sort of trade. What do you think, James? How left translated do you think this is going to be? Oh, there we go.
I got a slide for that in case it came up. So Bitcoin, I think year end could be 110K. And please let me know if you agree or disagree. ETH 4K, Solana $300, Tesla $400. These are all conservative. Now we may breach these levels and mean revert. That's also possible, but I think these are very achievable.
Yeah, it's not actually that far, really. It's only like 10, 15%, 15%.
That's right.
Across the board. Like, it's very easily achievable.
10%. And after this flush today, with all this leverage removed, I think we've got a good chance of seeing a move over the next week for sure. You guys also saw that 0.5% of the gold supply was found in China, in Hunan, this last week. Did you see that? It's all over the internet. So the question is, what will gold be at the end of the year?
I saw last year there was a big discovery somewhere in Africa too, but I don't know if that's real or fake news. Yeah, is that real?
Uganda and now China.
Yeah, and there's asteroids that apparently are full of it as well.
So the question is, gold into Bitcoin. I think that's a new narrative coming into the new year. I think a lot of people that hold all gold will move some exposure to Bitcoin. You see, there's just so many angles, so many axes coming into Bitcoin at this point.
Exactly. It's another black hole that'll suck everything in. And it's getting, and again, as Amanda said at the beginning, once it breaks that 100K, the TradFi world will go, huh? What just happened?
100%.
Yeah.
I can feel I'm going to get a bunch of texts when it crosses 100K, being like, oh, okay, what should I buy? We're going to get a lot of that. What we did see, I don't know if you guys saw this week that we, it looks like DOGE again was hitting an all-time high. That was because of X. So we're all bullish on being on X. Looks like they may be introducing their payments feature. You had Elon Musk show the new profile pages of people, and it looks like they have a little button in the top which has a $sign next to it, and he confirmed that crypto payments are coming. We already knew they were getting state-by-state licenses, but this has now become one of the big underpinnings of DOGE being back alongside, the whole department being called DOGE. Do you think you're going to be doing all your payments on X, James?
I think yes. I think a lot of people will, and this kind of goes back to what we discussed at the beginning with stablecoins and stablecoin regulation. This will completely ravage and disrupt TradFi because the money they make on sending checks and payments is ridiculous. We just had somebody there saying they had to move $5,000 off of Coinbase. It cost $86. That's going away. And you integrate your wallet, like we saw with Phantom, into an app where you are socially and you have your persona and you do payments from there. It's going to be terrifying for TradFi, I believe, going forward. I do not believe, though, they'll use Doge. I think Twitter have the wherewithal to maybe create their own or use a version of a wrapped Bitcoin or something like that. But either way, Doge has been rallying like crazy. There go the memes. And for the Bitcoin maxis that are terrified of things like MicroStrategy, they should be looking at meme coins. That's the real threat right now.
I think that I've been following the story for a long time, Elon Musk and his acceptance of crypto. I think the natural approach, based on people I know in the Valley, in positions in technology, is that if you all use professional X or you're a content creator like us, that you get paid, etc., you know that they integrate with Stripe, right? Stripe is heavily involved in USDC. So I think that it's probably the first thing will be acceptance of USDC in X. I think you'll be able to pay in USDC. That'll be the first thing through Stripe, the relationship with Stripe. Then obviously the speculation is PayPal, right? PayPal USD, Elon Musk's history with PayPal. Perhaps he will make PayPal into X and actually compete with PayPal. We don't know. But I think stable coins will be the first thing. I don't think it makes any sense to pay with unstable coins at this point, at that level, in a retail level. But anyway, we'll see.
As long as he introduces something, some kind of payment with cryptocurrency on X, it will be huge for the adoption and normalization of crypto all around the world. It will be huge. And you know, he could do it anyway, as they say, USDC, or he could make like a
exactly, and just because people often say, yeah, it accepts this or that, but in crypto, we all know crypto is fungible. So as long as you accept crypto, the closed loop of crypto rail, you can convert into any crypto you need to enter into anything.
And if
I used Polymarket by selling some Bitcoin. You know, as long as you can go to exchange.
Doge first, say that he does a custodial solution, for example. So you know, you do send Doge, but it's kind of updating in the database. Whatever, you know, it would be fine. USDC would be fine. Anything, and I think he's going to do it. I have a feeling he's going to do it because he think it's funny. He think it's a great thing to disrupt this little bit, and it makes sense from a business perspective because, as you guys said here, I mean, payments on the internet today is incredibly expensive. Most people don't know how expensive it is. It is like we're talking 5% or maybe 10% for PayPal today. And the pure like cost saving, the cost efficiency that crypto brings here is a genuine value. It's not only narrative or something like that. It really makes sense. And Elon Musk is a lot for efficiency, and you know, he will appreciate that.
What will be interesting is if executive decision to gate the whole thing with Doge. In other words, you have to use Doge. In other words, you have to trade your crypto for Doge on an exchange to use X payments. If he does that, I don't think it'll go down well. So he's a smart guy. I don't think he'll do that. I wouldn't use it.
I wouldn't use it either. But at the same time, he's all about the memes, and I think he's led people along too far on this journey. I think Doge will definitely be one of the
also the advantage from his perspective would be that there would be a lot less complex regulation, perhaps, than going with USDC. So it could be that it's almost like Bitcoin. Doge is like the closest thing, perhaps, to Bitcoin, that it is kind of really decentralized, and there's no one to arrest if you don't like it, while with USDC there is a company behind it.
Yeah, but
I mean, Doge is also infinite supply, though. That, you know, it is an interesting one. But I think this is the biggest story going into the next year: is what will Elon Musk integrate with? I think he could choose Lightning Network and be Bitcoin. We don't know.
Well, I don't see Doge cutting it. It's too slow. It only runs at 33 TPS, so you can't handle a global payment solution at that speed. It's also a little bit expensive too. They say it's cheap. It's cheap compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it's not cheap enough for what they want to do.
Well, so the question is, if he goes decentralized, then Doge will never work. As you said, it's too slow. But he might just do a centralized solution with Doge. In other words, just have, you know, you have a Doge balance of 100 and you're paying in Doge and you just have to fill your account. We don't know. We don't know.
It could still use another blockchain for payments and then just have like wrap Doge or something like that to be allowed to be sent.
It could be an ugly solution. That's the danger. Could be an ugly solution, or it could be a hygienic solution. He's a very smart guy. So I'm sure it's going to be the right solution. And so we'll see. But that, you're right, guys, that'll be one of the biggest announcements in crypto history. The X decision on payments with crypto.
And I mean, perhaps he's thinking incrementally. Like, I mean, like an engineer, Marty, you and I, we can kind of relate. As long as he gets something out the door, it's a huge step. Then step 2, it will be better. Step 3 will be better, and so on and so forth. So I'm very positive. I think it's going to happen. I don't know exactly the first form, and I don't think it matters.
The problem I have is that if you use crypto right now for payments, you know, I pay people in crypto, I earn crypto, it's in your Phantom wallet, it takes 1 second to settle. Why do you even need a wrapper around it? You know, that's always been my concern, is people need to be educated that crypto is the payment solution already. Stores can just put a QR code on the wall and you can pay them instantly to their wallet within a second. They don't need Visa, MasterCard, intermediaries, middlemen, payment gateway, all of this stuff. So even X payments is very interesting. It's almost like legacy to me.
I think technically that is correct, but there is one part, and that is the regulation. Like if you do that straight, like bare bone today, you publish your wallet address or something, then you have to keep track of if someone sends blacklisted money, or North Korea pays you, or Iran or something. So there is like that layer is kind of missing in the DeFi solutions today. So it would still make it easier for a lot of people who are not so technical, not so deep into that, if you could pay to your X address and then they would take care of those kind of things. I think so.
Even if you said you get a wallet, so your X handle, you go in, you get a wallet. So now you have a dedicated wallet, and you can get your royalty payments in that wallet. You can pay people from that wallet in X, but that's the only wallet you can use. But also the regulations are changing, with the political structure and all these new roles. All of those old limits to what was possible in crypto have potentially changed. I think Elon Musk is so close to the leadership, he may have a massive advantage. So I think it's going to happen, and whatever it is going to be huge in the history of crypto, whatever he announces. So we'll watch that very closely.
Right, we'll move to the final topic of the day, which I think, James, you actually put a slide on. But yeah, it looks like we've been talking about crypto meets AI. You've now has quantum computing meets AI. Google has now developed a new AI breakthrough. Alpha Qubit is the name of it. It's basically using AI to solve some of the biggest problems of quantum computing. They put out a paper this week. Quantum computing alongside crypto, alongside AI, are probably three of the most bleeding edge technologies out there at the moment. And it does feel as though AI is now going to unlock that whole space as you collaborate between the three of them. Did you have a look at this, James, after I put it out? It struck me.
I did. Yeah, I've been looking at quantum computing now for years because it is a risk to Bitcoin. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, they are at about 241 qubits right now. And I'd ask for Marty and CDO to chime in on this technology. But you need about 10 million physical qubits to break Bitcoin because of the Schnorr signatures and everything else. And basically, quantum computers still have a long way to go before they can even touch Bitcoin. I hope that's still true. And then Bitcoin as well. Once this quantum computing is mature enough, the Bitcoin protocol can be modified to make it quantum proof. So over to the technologists.
I mean, the basics of it is quantum computing is not very good at this raw break force computing stuff. It's too error prone. So it's all about error correction. And that's what this new Google announcement is they've made improvements to the error side of quantum computing. But go ahead, Anders, you have any take on that?
I think I don't think it's solvable. I don't think I don't think any quantum computer is going to solve and crack Bitcoin or something like that. I don't think so. But if it happens, we can never say that can never be done. Suddenly, some completely new thought comes up that has never been thought before, and it is cracked in some case, in some way. Okay, then we have to revise the code of Bitcoin. That's it. That's the only thing it means. If it would become realistically feasible to brute force something in the Bitcoin security model, okay, then we enhance the security model. That's it. That's the only thing it means. So yeah, I'm not worried about this at all.
Exactly. That's true for all cryptos. I mean, these other layer ones can make a validator build very fast that introduce lattice-based cryptography or hash-based signatures, which are both quantum proof. So it's an extremely quick fix, and especially ones with things like Solana, which have a new version every 3 days that all the validators are very comfortable rebuilding and loading, can make a fix within a few hours. While something like a Bitcoin would be quite a long-winded change. So I'm sure the risk is higher there. But as James said, you need about 1.9 billion qubits, right? In order to crack Bitcoin, I think in a certain window of a transaction, or 10-minute window. And I think this Microsoft announcement, they're still at 120 qubits, 120 versus 1.9 billion. So We're at least
So I
10
think the worry
years
here
away.
is zero. The worry here is really zero. So people are saying that but quantum computing is a threat to the whole crypto industry. No, it's not. You know, for number one, I don't think it's going to happen in the first place. But if it happens, okay, then we release a new version of the code. That's it. That's all it means.
Yep.
So nothing
Exactly.
bugger, I think.
Nothing.
Well, I think
burgers.
For now.
that was our agenda for the week. We touched upon crypto, we touched upon all the stuff happening with Trump and the new administration, all the technicals, and then moved into some of the big integrations we're starting to see from the big US financial institutions, and then finally quantum computing. Anything you guys want to touch upon for next week? Where do you think we're going to be next week? Do you think this is just going to be a blip and we're going to be straight back near 100K next week?
I mean, I can run through the updates in layer ones. I mean, Solana and Sui had some crazy news this last week since our show.
Sure.
I don't know if anyone got it.
About that in the end,
Solana
maybe.
has now 4 ETFs in the 19B stage. Twice, Canary, 21 shares, and VanEck, all 4 have now filed with the SEC since Gary Gensler left. So that's inevitable. Sui announced Mr. SETI 2, their new validator, which is supposed to be even faster. Solana Fidancer now has 15 running on mainnet, so that looks faster. They're averaging over 4,000 TPS now over 30 days, which is a new benchmark. A lot of news for Solana and Sui.
Marty, can you explain to the audience, because there's so much confusion around how Solana now has 4 different validators and how they all pitch in to scale in TPS, and how the platform is now more robust than ever before?
Yeah, a couple of things people don't know about speed, TPS, and blockchains is when blockchains start getting developed, remember they're open source. There's no leadership. They're not companies. It's people all over the world are developing the code in a sort of open source governance model. So when they first start, the foundation starts the first validator. That's sort of the invention of the thing, and they put it out on GitHub. And the same was true for Ethereum. In the beginning, when I was working on Ethereum, they had one validator, the Ethereum Foundation validator. And it went down all the time. Anytime they made changes, all the validators stopped. At that time, there were only 100. Same thing for Solana. When they first started, the Solana Foundation made one validator. So any change to their validator, all the validators would have to rebuild and restart. And then people called it an outage, which is just so ignorant and stupid. But the solution to that is you get a second validator. Because once you get a second validator, now you can rebuild the first validators, but the second validators are still running blocks. So the network doesn't go down, it maybe slows down. Solana now has 4 validators, okay? Ethereum has 6, I believe 6 to 10, depending on who you ask. So those problems are gone. Secondly, what happens is validators run, open source, and it's an open decentralized model, so anyone can run a validator. What happened with Ethereum as well, and the same things happened with Solana, is some shops, some validators were running old, slow hardware, right? And were resilient to upgrade to the later versions, which causes slowness in your network. And you can't force them to change unless the super majority does, and that just doesn't happen. So it's been a slow process to get all of the validators to update to the latest versions, which requires them upgrading their hardware to the latest specs. And that has now happened with Solana 2. So Solana 2 now has moved from 2,000 TPS on average over 30 days to 4,000, now 4,300. Almost doubled in speed by removing those slower validators and upgrading them to later versions. And this is the truth for all blockchains. They will all go through this evolution. So these are some little known facts about performance in TPS. And guys, TPS is not just like the RPM on your car. It's not just speed, it's adoption. Industry people like Matthew Siegel and people in the industry are now coming around to the fact that TPS is very important to understand because it shows adoption. It's literally the only adoption indicator or metric we have. If you don't have a lot of TPS, you don't have a lot of users using your network. So the higher your TPS, the more users are using the network. So you want a high TPS. Now that's the problem with things like Ethereum, with max out at 15. Is you cannot have more than 15 transactions a second. So you cannot get the adoption you require. Thus, they pivoted to L2 to try and solve the problem. These are some more education to just make people understand these concepts and how this works. I hope that helps.
I think a very good point, Marty. And one thing that has upset me from the very beginning is that people talk about two different types of TPS. One is how much the network theoretically can execute. The other one is how much it's actually used.
100%.
And those are two dramatically different things. And those who don't have any adoption tend to talk about the first one. But that is completely irrelevant.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they don't even know if they can execute on that, because it's a lot easier to do it on paper when you don't have any users than when you have real world workloads with actual smart contracts running and all the complexities hit you.
Yes.
That is the real TPS.
Absolutely. I think the theoretical TPS thing is a useless metric.
Yes.
Personally. That's like saying the NASA saying, we have the technology to land a vehicle on Mars, but they can't get to Mars. So who cares? Until they can get to Mars, they can't, it doesn't matter. And we also know from technology, I mean, I've been in technology my whole life. The cost of user acquisition is the highest cost and the hardest obstacle in technology. You can have the best technology, but to get users, almost impossible. You have to have almost...
And to take a real example, you know, we designed the mobile networks. It was an application that we know now every single person on the planet wanted it, because now they're using it. Still, as we were rolling it out, even after you convince the first 1 billion people, it still cost about $5 to convince the next person that they should get a mobile phone. The typical customer acquisition cost was around $5. So even if you have an application that every person in the world is going to want to use, you still need to convince them. There's still a cost to it. And for mobile, that used to be around $5 as that was ramping up. So exactly like Marty said, you said here, Marty, that a lot of people tend to forget. Like you build something, you say now we have a great blockchain, it can do 20 billion TPS. Okay, but that's worth nothing if you have 2 users who are doing, 0.1 TPS. Because to get those other TPS, that's going to cost some kind of effort and money to attract those people. You need to build an ecosystem. You need to have great applications. You perhaps need some marketing. You need all those things to attract people to your ecosystem. And then you have real TPS. And those are very different things. And look at adoption, guys. That's the hardest metric, like Marty said.
And also, Anders, there's an excellent point, Anders. And to elaborate even further, if you look at the current TPS, I look at ChainSpect. They track all current TPS 7-day, 30-day, 1 hour. If you look at ChainSpect, the reality is that there are only 3 blockchain networks doing more than 100 TPS, real-time TPS. Only 3. That's Stellar, which is actually finally getting the value it's supposed to, because it's highly used in Latin America, South America, XLM. It runs at 137 average over 30 days. ICP running, obviously people go, well, maybe it's just in a lab, we don't know. But ICP always seems to run over 100. But Tron is 90, Base is 87, BNB is 83, NEAR is 82. And then it goes to the 50s, 48 for Say, Polygon 37, Aptos 31. These things are highly underutilized. We're not talking about, well, Solana has more users, because it's running at over 1,000 for 9 months now on average. It's not just more users, it's a magnitude more users, 10 times more users. Anyway.
I think getting some of this stuff
Go
very,
ahead.
very, I think, like we've said it so many times in this show, but it's not even comparable when we start talking about some of the blockchains here. Like the market caps are comparable. Like that's the strength about it. The market caps are only a few, maybe 3K, 3 times or 4 times difference for some of them, but the user differences are just monumental, which is crazy to get behind.
8.3 million for Sol, 400,000 for Ethereum, and there's only one chain that's doing all the transactions, and that's Solana, 53.6 million transactions yesterday.
All right. Well, on that bombshell, we will
Excellent.
end this week. We went slightly over, but we had a good chat there about L1s at the end. We are back next week. I think James is doing the modding next week. Of course, you can find us all on various different platforms. Marty is on X and also has his own community. CTO is on X. YouTube also has various different indicators, and James is obviously on YouTube and on X as well. I'm on X and I have my own newsletter. You can also follow us on X. We got a bunch of good responses on that last week, a bunch of views on us going live there. So if you search at the DCA pod, you'll find us on X. You'll be able to see a bunch of different clips from each week. We're going live from now on. All right, gents.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time this week, and we will see you
Heads
again.
up, if you guys, I've got Zeus, Justin from Zeus Network with Andrew Kang on a space in a few hours' time. If you guys want to come and ask questions or hear about the update to Zeus, come ahead, come and have a look. It'll be a public space.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Guys.
Have a great week. Take care.
See you on Monday next week. Thanks
Thank
all.
you, everyone.